Hi, welcome to another episode of MYD Global. I'm your host, Leanne Hackman-Carty. Cybersecurity is an issue that many businesses are struggling with. They want to protect their personal information, their business information, and any health information they may have on their employees. In today's episode, I talked to Kim Caves. She's a certified partner at Whale Hunters, but she's also sold cybersecurity solutions for businesses for a number of years. So stay tuned as I talk to Kim about how small and large businesses can protect the information that's critical to their business operations. Hey Kim, nice to see you today. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Leanne, for having me here today on MYD Global.
Well, it's great to see you. I know I've been wanting to do an episode on cybersecurity for a while, and so I'm excited to hear what you've got to say. So before we get started, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself, your background?
Yeah, you bet. So first of all, I started my career in various roles in large companies doing public relations, and then I moved on to marketing and then enterprise account sales for almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
The last 5 years have been in the cybersecurity industry. Today, I help small businesses win big deals in big companies, and also have a speaker series on cybersecurity board training and other.
That's awesome. Well, so let's get started. So when we use the term cybersecurity, some people might not even know what that means. So can you just explain kind of what that is?
Yeah, so basically cybersecurity really is just information security. Our economic world is based on data. The protection of data is a result of that. It refers to computer, network, and control systems and anything that's electronic. So really data is the lifeblood of our businesses, and the economics of the world transfer products, services, and money. Think about the massive data stores at Amazon or WestJet or the banks, and think about small businesses who collect data on their customers, or they use credit cards to transact business, or they need data for analyzing to make decisions in their businesses. And any kind of a breach for a small business could really almost wipe them out. And in fact, data breaches have wiped out many large companies. In the next decade, there will be about 30 to 100 times more data that is created and stored. So it's a problem that needs to be addressed very early in the business stages, or by anybody in business and personally.
Yeah.
Crime in Canada is actually around over $3 billion as a cost, and in globally it's $600 billion.
Wow.
And so much of it is unreported. It's actually much bigger than that.
Yeah. So if I'm a business and I'm thinking of my risks, and cybersecurity risk might be one of them, what is something practical? Like, I know big businesses probably can afford robust systems, but say I'm a smaller business and this could be a significant cost to me. What are some very practical, easy things that I could do to start to address this issue?
Right. Well, thank you for asking. It's a big problem. And in fact, smaller businesses are now a larger target than big business because of the very thing you mentioned, because big business has more funds and resources to put at the problem, where small businesses don't have the same risk awareness of this problem. There's a few terms that I just wanted to point out that are very common in the industry. One is PII, which is personally identifiable information, and the other is PHI, personal health information. And there is governance and obligation of all businesses to protect our personal data and health information. And so there's governance that is followed, that has to be followed by any business, called PIPEDA. And it's basically overarching for Canada. It's called the Personal Information Protection and Electronic Documents Act. And this provides some good guidelines for any business of the kinds of things that they should do to protect their organizations. But sometimes, even though there's regulation, sometimes there are a couple of ways these hackers and these bad guys are getting in. And if we look at Life Labs as an example, there's a big example where they didn't have proper controls in place, and personal identifiable information is absolutely out there being used by the bad guys and sold on the dark web. So to set the context for small businesses, these criminals are getting in because they don't have these measures in place and aren't really concerned because they think it won't happen to them, that it's only the big businesses that would be targeted. There's two main ways that these bad guys get in. One is ransomware, where this is a classic where passwords are weak and these bad guys are getting into the systems. And the other one is business email compromise, where they are working through the same kind of access, whether it's weak passwords or they have access to they get access to data because there's no data controls or data access controls in place. And so that's called business email compromise. And both of these are really called social engineering by the bad guys to trick the human into making a mistake that allows them inside the organization. So small businesses can think of three things that will really help them tackle the problem. First, understanding the regulation and governance on PIPEDA, and the Canadian government has a great site that can be accessed for some tools. But basically it falls into three categories: people, process, and technology. So because people are the biggest target, awareness programs around security are absolutely critical for people, and they need to understand why that passwords need to be changed and why they need to be tough. For example, passwords like winter 1234, summer 1234, you would be surprised how many people have those as their passwords and they never change them. Those are really easy to break into. So the awareness on a regular basis and keeping up to date with the most current types of threats and examples, again, you can find them on the web, just examples of what the bad guys are doing and what cues and clues to watch out for. So the next one is process. So people, process, technology. There needs to be processes in place, again, right from the beginning. An email policy and a data access policy is absolutely required. Not everybody should see employee personal information. It should be maybe just the HR group or very few individuals. So when data access is available to everyone in a company, that's a big gap and that's a big risk. It's a lot easier to get access into that sensitive information. And lastly, technology. There's technology that is generally a must when you think of firewalls and web browsing protection so that websites don't get through to your computer. These are really quite essential. And there's a variety of technology tools or even a managed month-to-month service that will help even small businesses. But it is a practice that should be instilled in the organization right from the get-go.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, Kim. I know that it's easy to remember to do that: people, process, technology.
Yes.
So before we wrap up, is there anything else that perhaps I haven't asked you wanted to say that you think would be helpful to someone who's listening?
Sure. A couple of things. So really, and I think, you know, from what I talked about, building a cybersecurity culture is a real must. And people must understand why that security culture and awareness is in place every day. So building it into the culture is really critical. As far as resources, again, I mentioned there's some fantastic resources for people to look at with tools and strategies to really build programs for small businesses. Canadian government has a great site that's called the Communications Security Establishment. And I understand that there are tools that they are going to announce shortly specifically for small businesses. Secondly, it's important for people to know, which is often misunderstood, that social media tools are a place where these bad guys are getting into. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. So what they do is say it's a WestJet site, and it'll be something like, send us your information and your credit cards or personal information, and we'll send you a $25 gift certificate for WestJet. People fall for these all the time, and a lot of them are bad guy type of posts. And so you really need to be aware and watch out for those. And a lot of people don't realize that that's a place where they're going. And really just the commitment of the organization. When I worked in cybersecurity, oftentimes it was tough to convince executives of my customers that this was an important area for concern. You know, it's like insurance. Well, we'll buy insurance as soon as we get a breach. And a lot of companies really still feel that way. So they don't really protect their organizations, thinking it could never happen to them. So employees, executive, and board members of small businesses all need to be working together to create a cybersecurity culture.
Well, that's awesome. We'll end there. I will definitely put links to some of the resources that you mentioned in the video so people can refer to them. And hopefully those watching, if they haven't thought about this as something critical to their business, they will think again and take steps, even if they're minor, to start, just to start their business processes and technology. So thanks again, Kim. Wishing you all the best, and take care.
Thank you, Leanne. Have a good day.
You too.